So, welcome back to the foster care, kinship care, adoptive care, parenting in West Virginia video series. I'm Sky Kirschner. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Deena Shelton. Deena, thank you so much for being here. We are right in the middle of watching a video on dysregulation and attachment and the importance of the nonverbal bonds and connections. I'm going to bring the video up. If you haven't seen the beginning of this video, I encourage you to watch part one, part A of this. And we're just going to we're going to pick it up right from the moment when the mother comes back after basically ignoring this infant for about 30 seconds. The infant goes into quite a bit of distress. And what struck me about this in part one was how quickly the baby reconnects and re-regulates. So let's just watch this again, and then we've got a bunch of other things to say about what happens in this 2 seconds. So you'll see just the ending of the mother's ignoring the baby, and then the reconnection.
Stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing?
And there's the smile. Right. So it's more than 2 seconds. It's about 4 seconds. But if you're a foster adoptive kinship care parent, that probably seems like a miracle, and you would give anything to have one of your kids who may have been neglected have that quick a response to reconnect with you, and we know it's hard. So this is an example of what we would call a secure attachment style. This infant is ready to let the mother back. You could say the infant isn't thinking this way, but the infant is quick to forgive, right? Mad a few seconds before, where did you go? The mother comes back, oh, that's all I wanted. Yes, let's start smiling again. I've heard it said that dogs are as close to God theologically as you can get, because dogs are always forgiving. They, for the most part, unless you've severely abused a dog, but dogs are eager to reconnect and to bond, no matter how you might not have met their needs. They will keep coming back, and it's one of the things that those of us who are dog lovers love about dogs. Deena, anything else to add? I mean, this is the wish for every parent, no matter where you are, that your child be willing to forgive you right away when you've returned from whatever took you away from the relationship, whether it was an emotional thing or a physical thing. We all, parents, long to be forgiven by their children for our mistakes. And we see this infant accepting the mother back right away. Yeah, what's happening inside you as I'm saying that, Deena? You look moved.
I'm thinking about all of the foster adoptive kinship parents who we can watch this video and we see what healthy attachment looks like. And the truth is, there's not a whole lot of times that we see that in our children.
Yes.
This unencumbered, free connection where there's plenty of space built up for forgiveness.
By space, what do you mean by
space for forgiveness, where there's almost like a love tank, right? And so much has been put into it that when something's taken out of it, it's not empty. And there tends to be a lot, we talk about that a lot of times with couples who have to face forgiveness and working through things, that filling up that love tank and pouring into someone else is so important in times where withdrawals are made intentionally or by accident. But we so rarely get to see this uninhibited and unencumbered connection and attachment that hasn't been damaged for a long time.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking when you were talking about that is, for us who walk this road with kids who have been hurt and aren't sure if they can forgive and move forward, where it's not really just about forgiveness most of the time, it's about safety. And if I forgive and trust again, am I safe? Not do I abstractly have the ability and space in my own head to forgive you, that they are in protection mode.
Yeah.
That one of the most important things is having connections and people in your life, whether it is good counselors and professionals, or whether it is a really good support group of people who have also used counselors and professionals and their own experiences to be able to story and map for you the signs of connection and attachment healing in your own kids, because we miss them sometimes. We
Mhm.
forget and we don't attribute growth and connection because it doesn't always feel like growth and connection, even when it's happening. And I told this story before.
Let me just see if I want to follow you. Is it
Yeah,
okay for me to interrupt?
absolutely.
Right. So it sounds like you're saying sometimes as a parent, I might be so used to the kid not connecting with me that I start to have, that starts to be a lens that I'm seeing the relationship through, and I might be missing the subtle signs that the kid is actually more willing to connect with me than I'm thinking they are. Is that, am I hearing that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's a yes and yes.
Yes.
And also I may attribute their signs to connection to another thing that I may even identify as a problem or as a lack of connection. And I pinpoint back to the story I told on another video, but in brief, with my daughter, the very first time that I was not happy with her. She was in trouble for something, and it wasn't a big, huge blow up, but when she would want to just disconnect and go to bed, and when she would do that, she would always come back 15, 20 minutes later and check
Mm,
to make sure things were okay, apologize,
mm,
which is great in general. When you're raising kids, you want to teach them to do that. But I also realized, because of the support that I had, that these were attachment patterns, that
yes.
these were things that said, I need to make sure we're okay before I go to sleep, so I can go to sleep knowing that you're not going to be gone tomorrow because of what I just did. And so the first night that she stormed off and didn't come back, it's very easy to see our children through the lens of other kids and go, how disrespectful. And this time she didn't come back and apologize.
Mm.
When in reality, that was one of the biggest messages of attachment I had ever received from her, because she no longer wondered if I was going to be gone because she didn't make it right.
She wasn't anxious about whether you would retaliate. She was feeling secure enough to know mom's okay, even though I just expressed some anger. I don't have to go in an anxious way to check and make sure I'm not going to get kicked out of the house.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And we have to fight as foster, adopt, and kinship parents. We have to purposefully and on purpose and intentionally rearrange what we're looking at as wins. We have
And,
to.
and you're saying that it really helps to have people around who will help you to interpret the meaning of those things, whether it's a counselor or a group uh, or friends, people in one of the networks that you're in, or one of the agencies who can help you to say, hey, I know it looks like this and I know it doesn't feel good, but here's another possibility. This could mean that you've done a great job.
Mhm.
Wow.
Because in that, and going right back to this video,
Yeah.
when you watch the mom's emotions and the mom's emotive stance is guiding the child's experience, right?
Mhm.
And even for our kids who can poker face it really well, so are we.
Yeah.
And so when a child, gets angry and leaves a room, if I am left and my internal state is, I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm not doing a good job as a parent, I'm out of control in this situation, or I've lost control, or I don't have any influence, then my emotions and my situation becomes like that mom who's just deadpanning. And then I start to protect myself against my kid. And when that kid comes to need something, I have a wall up and a protective stance, and they're experiencing what we watch that baby experience. And then you think it's asking them to hold all of that, and we're expecting them to still present in a way that's easy to connect and attach when we're not. And so we have to challenge those internal belief systems for us too, and say, this is the work.
Yeah.
This is connection. This is attachment. This is real attachment, and providing space for that. And then we get to be free so that the next time that child comes to us, we're still warm and open and connected.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's reminding me of a time. I forget what was going on. I might have been annoyed with the kids, or I was I'd had a hard day or something, and my daughter was picking up on that, and she asked me, usually we would read, but she asked me if I would sing a lullaby. And at first I felt this fist inside of me, and I just, no, I don't want to sing a lullaby to you. And then I realized, singing a lullaby is a really incredible thing, because I don't know how to sing a lullaby if I'm angry. Go to sleep. I guess you could pull it off, but it just melted my heart to sing these tender words in this soft, quiet way. And I thought, oh, that's really pulling some nice stuff out of me. I'm so glad that she asked me to do that. And now, even as a 20-year-old, she'll sometimes, if she's had a really, or she'll call me up from college and she'll say, Dad, this is going to sound silly, but would you sing Ba Ba Black Sheep to me? And I'll sing Ba Ba Black Sheep. But it's really hard to sing a lullaby to somebody if you're mad at them. And I think I love what you're saying in terms of the importance of showing up, physiologically showing up in our bodies, in our tone of voice, in a way that reminds the kids that we're going to be okay. We're okay. Nobody's going to leave. We're all in this together.
And those messages have to be repeated as often as possible, in as many ways as possible,
Right.
and reminded consistently.
So let's look at that repetition thing. So we could guess between this couple, this mother and this infant, this kind of dance of connection has happened thousands of times. And if we just, if we were to just count, how often do they connect like this? Thousands of times in this infant's short life. And then you think about, okay, so what kind of situation is that child coming from, and how often did this kind of dance happen? And you might be in the tens or the hundreds, but maybe not the thousands. And so sometimes I just think about the pure algebra of it. How many repetitions do I get in to undo the repetitions the kid didn't get earlier? And I think that's a way of thinking about what you're saying. Sometimes it might take months for the child to have a response, trusting that you're there for them, allowing the repair to happen when okay, now I'm here for you. I understand your birth parents may not have been, but I'm here now. I'm ready for you to accept me, but the child isn't ready, and I've got to catch up with a couple thousand responses. Is that a crazy way to look at it, or is that?
It's not a crazy way at all, and it highlights something that we see a lot too. That I think even just culturally, we've shifted to looking at learning as we have structured it in our education systems, rather than how we naturally learn, which is through repetition, through consistency, through messing up and trying again. And we have this idea that learning is hearing information, taking it in cognitively, and then applying it. And that is learning in one way, but it is not the main way of learning. And most people, that's not their most effective style of learning. And developmental learning, which we all are involved in, requires repetition, requires failing and starting over and doing again and repeating. And we don't have a whole lot of mental and emotional space for that in ourselves or in others as a culture.
Yeah.
And it's really makes it difficult when that is the job, because it can take months, weeks, years sometimes for some of this to come. And instead of being able to track the developmental progress, we get frustrated because our main goal is to feel better. And that's a really bad way to measure something anyway. When is it not going to be this hard?
Yeah. That brings up so many things for me. It's one thing to say, I'm here for you. It's another thing to show up and not have to say anything. St. Francis said, preach Christ, use words only if necessary, right? So you've got to show up and prove that I'm here for you without, whether you use the words or not. But if you say I'm here for you, the kid's going to know whether to believe that or not based on what your feet are saying. Are you walking the walk with it? Let's now I don't want to. I love my phone. It's gone off several times in the last episode, but phones are one of the challenges, right? Because as parents, we can get preoccupied with our phone so that we're not giving visual eye contact to the kids. We're holding the phone. So we only have one hand left unless we're, and kids are going to be in relating to their screens sometime. I'm imagining, Deena, you have a no screens time in your family. We certainly did in ours, even though I love my screens, but there's no replacement for the live contact and the tactile contact.
Absolutely. And in the busyness of the world today and how integral we have made phones into our lives, it can be really hard to balance that. You're right. We do have sometimes in our family where there's no phones, but we are less screens in general. And our kids don't have phones until later. And when they get them, there are no internet phones. So there's no apps and games and internet. It's a phone and text and calendar and very pictures and videos. There are phones out there like that for those who may be watching and wondering that you can get phones with no internet that look like smartphones, big screens, really nice.
So
Those
they can
exist now,
fit in
thankfully.
socially with their friends.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
got you.
And so we have those phones. But for those of us, because both my husband and I work multiple jobs and independently and run things, and that requires a lot of interaction and engagement. And so the interaction with our devices goes up just because of that. As a result, there are some things that I do suggest to families with that, which is one, it's not just about the quantity of time, it's about the motivation and the intentionality of the time. Some people are going to be on their phones more than others. If it's an accident, that's a problem. If you are using your phone as a tool versus your phone being the thing that's guiding your attention, those are very different experiences in a home. The other part is, especially as they get older, we think that they need less of this as they get older. It's not true. They need more eye-to-eye contact. And so I encourage parents oftentimes will just pretend they'll feign listening to children. And they'll let the kids talk and those whatever while they're looking at their phones, thinking that is giving the kids something they need. And I am more prone to tell people, tell your child that you want some quiet moments and ask them to go write it down or tell you about it later when you will look at them in the face and listen to them, because it's not doing anybody a favor most of the time. Sometimes it's fine, but if that's the main way you listen to your kid, it's better for them to hear, hey, I want some quiet time right now. I don't want to listen right now. Come back and tell me this later. And for them to learn how to balance that and then come back when they can get full attention and they know that you're there to hear them.
FaceTime is great if you're 10 miles away from each other, but if you're 10 feet away from each other, real FaceTime is much more effective. It's so beautiful. Let's watch the end of this video and see if there are any closing thoughts that we have.
Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation. Babies this young,
so that's a big word.
extremely responsive to
Let me
the emotions
turn that off.
and the reactivity. And
Reparation
the
simply means repair. That there's that when there's been a disruption, it's important to spend time with repair.
I love that, and the focus on repair, teaching your kids how to repair and practicing it yourself. Because when I work with couples, we always talk about the tension after a disagreement or a fight or an argument. And I always make them define tension. And people describe it as something you feel, but it's actually a set of behaviors.
Hmm.
It's not, you really can't cut the tension with a knife in a room, right? It's not something that exists. It's because I'm refusing to make eye contact with you, because I am avoiding touching you in any capacity. I will move extensively to avoid touching you. I don't take, concern of your needs. I don't speak to you in general. I don't, and it's not even just that I don't speak, it's that I don't respond to your cues either. And we do that to our children because they have dysregulated us too. We're creating that same environment, even if we're not watching them completely dysregulate like you watch that baby. And so when we work with couples and we talk to them about breaking that tension, you do one of the behaviors that's opposite of what you're doing. You put a hand on a shoulder and say, I'm upset right now and I don't really want to talk, but we're going to be okay. And I just need some time. That keeps tension out of it. That's repair work. Even if you're not talking about it and everybody's not super happy at that moment, that's still repair. It's we're okay, even though right now I don't want to talk to you. I'm still pretty angry, but we will come back.
I think this would be a really good topic for our next one on what John Gottman calls bids for connection, bids for, and a bid can either be accepted, it can be ignored, or it can be outright refused. And that creates problems for us in relationships when our attempts to connect and repair either get ignored or refused. And I love what you're saying that in an adult to adult relationship, it's one thing, but in an adult to a kid relationship, especially if we've taken on a kid from where they've had some challenges around attachment, the burden is really on us to keep steady, to accept their ignoring our bids for repair and connection, and to not retaliate, but just to keep being that tall oak in the forest, and hope that they will see that through consistency, we are available to them when they're ready to forgive us or forgive the other adults in their lives who, and I'm using forgive very, very loosely. By forgive, I mean smile at you when that's the thing that you're waiting for and you've been waiting weeks for, just a smile.
Absolutely. That's
Deena, thank you so much for being with us again, and thank you out there for watching us. For Deena Shelton and myself, Sky Kirshner, thanks again for being with us. Thursdays at noon through May and June of 2022, Deena and I are available Thursdays at noon. You can see it in the write-up about this particular episode, and join us on Zoom if you would like. And thanks so much for what you're doing as a parent. We know it's hard, and we're hoping that the information we're giving you is not only helpful intellectually, but also helping to support you in your heart, because we all need that extra support. Deena, would you like the last word?
Just the same as what you said of hanging in there and continuing to push for connection for yourself, that it's not wrong to seek community and information to help you balance, because it is that old analogy of the airplane mask. You've got to put your own on first so that you can help your children put theirs on as well. So push for these things for yourself, not just for your children.
Thank you so much, Deena. All right, we'll
Thanks,
see you next
everybody.
week. Bye-bye.